comes from politicsdoneright.com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It, As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto Willis. Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willis. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willis. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right. Welcome to another edition of Politics Done Right. As you know, we like to do local stories as well as national and international stories. Today we have a special one because there is a great group in this city, the Houston Peace and Justice Center, that has a peace camp every single year. And today we're honored to have Angel Ramirez, who is the director of the Houston Peace and Justice Center Peace Camp. He's also an educator, born and raised in Houston. And of course, you know, he does other things. He's a writer. He goes ahead and he's an athletic instructor and all the works. I tell you what, why don't we let El Señor Ramirez tell us a little bit about himself. First, before we get started, tell us a little bit about who you are.
Well, thank you, Herberto, for having me this morning. I am very pleased to let you guys know about the Peace Camp happening this summer, and also a little bit about myself. I am an educator, recently let go here in Houston. There's a lot of stuff happening in Houston and HISD. And I was one of those educators that actually was released of his duties this past year. But I'm not going to let that stop me from doing great things and reaching the masses and helping kids and helping other adults and educators just feel that peace, love, and justice here in Houston. I've been in education for I want to say about 10 years now. I started in 2015, and I actually created a class based on the concept of Peace Camp. And so my class was a social emotional learning space, and I was allowed to do yoga, meditation. I was allowed to teach kids about how to regulate their emotions, how to understand and have a vocabulary to understand other emotions, compassion, empathy, just love through art, music, dance. That's kind of who I am. I am an artist in many ways. I'm a dancer. I've been, all over Houston teaching salsa, merengue, bachata, cumbia, country and western line dance, and I get to teach the kids that too.
Así que tú puedes hacerlo todo.
Todito todo, así que
Eso es lo que veo. Okay, so keep on, my brother. Tell me some more.
Yeah, so the class that I had was, at Herrera Elementary here in the Houston's North Side, and up until I said about a month ago, I was looking forward to a summer of Peace Camp, and just things changed for me, and so now Peace Camp is going to be my primary focus. I'm also in a new sort of like adventure. I'm getting certified through the Breathe for Change organization to be a yoga, meditation, and mindfulness facilitator. So I'm getting certified in yoga, which is a new love of mine. And I'm also going to be certified in sound healing through sound bowls and tuning forks and, those kind of things to sort of help people find that peace and that ability to want to heal and to just feel the good vibrations, and that's what I'm all about. I'm just about good vibes and connecting others to those vibes. So
Well, it seems to me that the Houston Peace and Justice Center has just the right person directing our peace camp that's held yearly. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you're going to be doing in peace camp? I tell you what. First of all, why don't you tell the audience what is peace camp and how they can actually and who qualifies to be a part of peace camp and how they can be a part of it.
absolutely. So Peace Camp is happening this summer. We've already had one camp that was held in South Houston at the Servants of Christ church, and we are now looking at having two more in July, and that's why I'm here. We actually would love to invite you and anyone who is listening to be a part of it. We're going to have the July dates are coming up. I'm trying to pull them up right now on my phone because I have that information right in front of me. Excuse me. So yes, so that was July 8th through the 12th. So that's
Mhm.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. It's going to be held at the Houston Mennonite Church.
And
And
where is that?
that's going to be basically off of I-10 and Wirt Road, so in the Spring Branch area. That's like not far from IKEA Houston.
Right.
And so in that little area of town, we're going to be hosting the two peace camps that we have left this summer. And then the second peace camp is going to be July. Let me make sure I get the dates right because I'm just waking up. So good morning to everybody. July 20, looking at my calendar really quick, my phone's acting really silly now. July 22nd through the 26th. And that's going to be actually a teen camp. The first camp is going to be for what I call the littles. And that's going to be anyone from going into the first grade to sixth grade. So those children that are going to be participating that are in first through sixth can be with us there at camp from July 8th through the 12th. And then the bigs or the teens are going to be from the 22nd to the 26th. And that's anybody from seventh grade to high school seniors. And we're trying to just sort of like offer an experience that's going to be age appropriate and give the kids, the things that they're interested in, and still giving them a space where they can have fun and do like summer type things. It's a summer camp. It's not a sleepover camp. It's basically you bring the kids over at around 8:30, 9 a.m. We get them a little breakfast snack, and then we just start our day. And our day is composed of these different type of themes and topics. Last camp, we talked about seeds of change and how we have to see ourselves as seeds of peace, where we're going to basically plant little seeds, and as we grow into our beautiful flowers and trees that are ourselves, we're bringing about change through peace, justice, environmentalism. Talking about, we use, anything from music, popular songs to introduce kids to these concepts. And then we go into, activities. We had a beautiful experience learning about gardening and learning about how seeds themselves germinate and become flowers, and what we have to do in our part, as far as gardeners go and growers, to help that growth. And then we kind of use that as the symbol to talk about us growing in our understanding to change things. And so anything from what it means to stand up for, the rights of others and yourself, how to be a peaceful person and to basically find that inside of yourself. And then we just also did games. I'm a big kid. I love to play. So we're definitely going to have lots of fun stuff like, frisbees and, soccer. And, it's really hot. So we figured out a way to do all these things inside so that we can definitely take care of ourselves and take care of the kids to make sure no one gets, sucked up by the sun and all of its heat because it's so hot here in Houston.
Well, I tell you what, let me just, for the people that are listening, let me just say there are going to be 2 weeks of Peace Camp. The first week is July 8th through July 12th, and that is for kids the ages of 6 years old through sixth grade. And that will be held again July 8th through July 12th. Now, it is the location for that is 1231 Wirt Road. It is 1231 Wirt Road. And you can sign up by going to hpjc.org. That is the Houston Peace and Justice Center website. It's hpjc.org. On the front page, it's the first thing on the page for you to go ahead and click to sign up for Peace Camp. The other one that El Señor Ramirez was talking about is July 22nd through July 26th, and that covers grades 7th through 12th, and it's at the same location, 1231 Wirt Road. As you can hear from Angel right now, it's going to be a fun time for both the kiddos and the older kiddos. So let's go ahead and make sure that we sign up by going to hpjc.org. Go ahead, Senor Ramirez.
Yeah, and another thing that we definitely want to push is that there are plenty of spaces available, and more than anything, there are scholarships available. So if there are kids at home doing nothing, sitting on their phones, or sleeping or watching TV, why not basically give them a chance to explore these beautiful concepts through educational type things that can help sort of nourish that part of the brain that is needing so much sort of connection. And so the scholarships are available through the Houston Peace and Justice Center. And if you apply basically for either one, the July 8th or the July 22nd camp, you can get a full, ride scholarship, to be able to attend these camps. And all we ask is that you just kind of, pack a lunch for them, but we provide them with snacks and just pick them up at 3 o'clock and drop them off at 9 a.m. And we'll take care of the rest. And so it's really just a beautiful space. And we have a nurse on hand to always make sure that the kids are safe. The two fellow educators are going to be helping assist with the activities, with the music, with the art projects. And we have just again the experience of wanting to connect to these concepts of inclusion, equality, conflict resolution. We talk about lots of different type of topics and things that are going to be coming up, but most of all we do it through music, arts, crafts, meditation. I'm getting to do a lot of that with them. So we're yoga, we're going to be doing a daily yoga, and then of course we're going to be dancing, because that's what I do. I dance. And so the kids get to learn firsthand how to just to love and to express themselves through music and dance and movement.
Well, look, Angel Ramirez, I want to thank you for being here again. I want to remind everybody that for kids ages 6 through 6th grade, it is between July 8th and 12th. It's those 5 days. Sign up at hpjc.org. The location is going to be 1231 Wirt Road. All the information will be there at the HPJC website. And if your kids are between 7th grade and 12th grade, it will be July 22nd through July 26th. What better way to have your kid have a learning experience for 5 days at a peace camp, one run by El Director Angel Ramirez. So I tell you folks, please go ahead, go to hpjc.org and sign up. Give me a quick closer, Angel.
A quick what?
A quick closer.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So again, we would love to see, the kids, and also just that free scholarship. So you don't have to worry about price wise, just, being able to bring them over to us, and we'll take care of the rest. And so we want to plant these seeds of change and create a space in Houston for these very important things. And that is peace, justice, love, and so much more. So please join us this summer.
Angel Ramirez, Director of the Houston Peace and Justice Center Peace Camp. Thank you so kindly for having been on Politics Done Right.
Thank you. Gracias a ustedes. Y'all have a great day.
Muchísimas gracias, hermano.
listeners, today we are honored to have a special guest, someone that has been with us before under a different title. We have Jerry Ashton, founder of End Veteran Debt, a 501c3 private charitable foundation. He's going to be with us. He's a former Navy veteran. Jerry was also co-founder of RIP, Rest in Peace Medical Debt. That was also a 501c3 that cleared over $12 billion in debt, in medical debt. So this guy knows what he's doing. So again, welcome, my brother from another mother. Good day to you, Mr. Jerry Ashton. How are you doing today?
I'm just ducky, Egberto, and yeah. I can't read my R's, so don't ask me to do that.
Well, I mean, I think you made a good attempt at that, and you did a good job. But anyway, look, I don't know if you are ever going to say, I'm going to settle down. It seems like you're always moving forward. You're always doing something. You're always helping folks out. That seemed to be your nature. Tell me a little bit about your new project. And I don't know how new it is, but End Veteran Debt. We are in a society where we ask a lot of people to sacrifice. They sacrifice to keep our country one of the most powerful, if not the most powerful country in the world. Yet when it's time to take care of the ones who pretty much ensure our safety, etc., we're not too kind with them. Why don't you tell me about your new project?
Well, thank you for asking, and thank you, audience, for listening to this magnificent podcaster and fellow human being, Egberto Willis. Yes, there is something new and bigger. What happened with RIP Medical Debt, if you remember, I and a friend by the name of Craig Antico wandered into Occupy Wall Street back in 2011 and became intrigued with the messages we heard there. We were a couple of former debt collectors ourselves. And when we listened to the complaints, all the wrongs that need to be righted, there was one that we were particularly suited to do something about, and that was medical debt. We know how to collect medical debt. We just didn't realize what a scourge it was and the harm it was doing to America. So we decided to switch gears, re-engineer ourselves, and begin the process of eliminating medical debt. And it was just a wild idea 10 years ago, not much of a chance for success. Nobody talked about medical debt back in 2014, but today you can't open a newspaper without reading about it. And that's because of what we started, just because we were touched. Just like I'm hoping that your listener and viewer will be touched by the story I'm going to tell you about veterans. So yeah, we walked into Occupy Wall Street as debt collectors, walked out as debt forgivers. Now I'm going to switch gears and pay attention to veterans, because veterans, even though there are about 18 million veterans in America, that comprises 6% of our population. Guess what? They account for twice as many people who are homeless, twice as many people who commit suicide, twice as many people who are in various forms of financial and societal dangers. So let me ask you this: does the date June 6 mean anything to you or your listeners?
I think you should enlighten us, but I think it has something to do with the Second World War, correct?
I believe it does. June 6, 1944.
D-Day?
D-Day. D-Day. That's when the Americans and their allies stormed the beaches at Normandy in order to liberate Europe. When that job was completed and they began coming home in 1945, they were greeted like heroes. Today, not so much. Our veterans who are returning today face a much different America. So I'm not going into the seemingly endless statistics of how they're affected, but we're here to change that. We're going to change the story, just like we changed the story on medical debt. So we're taking June 6th seriously, and we launched Operation Debt Day. It's no longer D-Day, it's Debt Day. And between June 6th, 2024, going forward to June 5, 2025, we are going to set about to raise enough money to abolish $80 million worth of veteran debt.
Did you say 80 billion as in a B?
Yeah, and million as in M.
Oh, okay, okay. That's what I hoped you had said.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
And by the way, it's not just medical debt. We're taking a look at any debt that encumbers or harms a veteran. You're talking about predatory debt, like payday loans, car title notes, scam educational systems, schools. We're talking about debt of necessity, like putting tires on the car so you can get to work. We're going to locate that debt and we're going to get rid of it. That's our job.
Now, let me ask you this. Are you going to be doing this on an individual per person basis, or you're going to try to aggregate this into, let's say, people from one particular debt collection agency has all the data for this group of folk? Or is this going to be people put in a request to your company, your 501c3, or how's that going to work?
Now, let me explain how debt buying occurs. First of all, very few people know that their debt, medical debt, payday loan, credit cards, when they are defaulted on and the creditor can't get their money, they'll sell that debt to a debt buyer on the open market for pennies on the dollar. When they have that debt in their possession, they then either begin the collection process or they sell it out to other collection agencies who then pursue you and me for the full amount. That's as bottom feeding as you can get.
Mm-hmm.
So what we do is we're going to go to the same debt market, but instead of concentrating on medical debt, we're going to concentrate on that debt of necessity and predatory debt. And we're going to compete with the collection agencies and we're going to buy it. And once it's in our control, then we're going to forgive it. Now, by the way, I teamed up again with Craig Antico, going back in time and pushing it forward. He has a company called ForgiveCo, which is a public benefit corporation that he started in order to approach the problem of debt in particular. So he and I got together and I said, Craig, let's you and me work just on veteran debt. Do debt of other kinds with other people, but let's take care of veterans. And he is now partnering with me, he and his son, Eric Antico. So we're pretty happy about that. So what does that mean to somebody who's listening? No, you can't write to me and ask me to forgive your debt. But I will want you to write to me because I'm going to connect you with local charities that can. You see, work as a foundation, as opposed to a charity. When we bring money in, we can put that money out to individual charities that work with us, or we can just do the work ourselves. But this is a national and local approach, thinking globally, but acting locally. So we're partnering with 80 different organizations, veteran, civilian, anybody that has a care about veterans, and each one of them we're going to co-fundraise so that in their area, which is getting to your point, in their home state, we're going to have them with us raise enough money. And by the way, that's $50,000 to buy $1 million worth of veteran debt and then forgive it, sending letters from us to the people whose debt has been forgiven and say, guess what? You'll never hear from a bill collector again. And by the way, before I forget, endveterandebt.org. That's where you got to go to help us.
And veteran are plural or singular?
Veteran. And veteran, and debt is DEBT. Endveterandebt.org.
I will have that in the blog post accompanying this podcast. And by the way, this will be aired on KPFT 90.1 FM Houston and likely throughout the entire Pacifica network. Now, here is the question. Now, this is a service that there are two things that I think you need. One is the people that need help and the people who are willing to help your organization by the debt at pennies on the dollar so that it can actually be forgiven. Because as you get income in, you're buying that debt not to go after somebody, but you're buying that debt to forgive it. And now, are people specifically going to, let me, I guess I better ask it this way. You're going to randomly buy debt, and for the people who are forgiven, send them out a letter. Is that correct?
That is correct. And so there are two people I'm reaching out to by way of your show. Number one, the veteran who needs that help, because we want to know about it. We want to see what we can do for you locally. And number two, any organization, faith-based community, business, if you want to partner with us so we can co-fundraise to take care of that debt, we'd love to have you to be one of 80 organizations, as each of the 80 organizations will abolish $1 million for the medical debt, symbolically $1 million for each year that has passed since June 6, 1944, where 4,000 Americans and allies lost their lives on just that one day.
That is exceptional. And how is it working thus far?
Well, you're talking to the Jerry Ashton of 10 years ago. We're just starting this.
Right.
But I do have a track record, and I have a great team working with me, and already people who are lining up to partner. And I want to point out another interesting thing. I'm using my background as a former Navy journalist to put together a media room so that when we're doing the work that we're doing, we're going to get stories out about how we're helping people in Austin or Dallas or Washington, D.C. or the Northwest. So we're going to have local stories written because we want people who are doing good to be known. And we believe in impact awareness. And what greater impact is there than to be able to help your fellow man and woman who are veterans, who signed a blank check one time and said, I'm willing for America to cash this check up to and including my life. And when they come home, they can't even get that. They can't get anything in the way of a check cash except a payday loan. So that's just too wrong.
Now, there's another aspect to this, and I'm not sure exactly how it works. I think in reading some of your literature, I think one of the services you're actually attempting, I don't know if you're attempting to offer or what, is that after this debt is forgiven, that the person's credit history is cleared or made whole. Is that a part of it as well?
Would you restate that?
Yeah, in other words, one thing is paying a debt off, but then
Yeah.
there's a history of that debt in the person's credit record. Are
No.
you also doing anything about that?
Yes, we're making sure that in the cases where we find a debt mark, that we're going to be taking that off. But here's another important thing. Education. We want to educate at our site, endveterandebt.org. We're going to have an educational system by way of making sure that veterans don't get caught in the trap. Financial literacy.
Financial literacy, right.
Yes, very important. So what we're doing is number one, we're making people aware. And we know that there's some people who say, you know, that's wrong and that needs to be righted. So they're touched. And when somebody's aware and touched, they want to know more. What's this all about? Is this a scam? People actually ask me about that when I started RIP Medical Debt. How can you make any money? You don't make any money. That's why it's called a charity. So they want to get educated. How can veterans defend themselves from these bottom feeders, the people that will take advantage of them? And if they do they have an ally, groups of people who know what they're talking about, subject matter experts who will step up and say, you need to do this and this and this. Now, there are a lot of local organizations, and particularly the DAV, that does a great job of working with veterans. Lots, if you Google veteran charities, you'll see them by the thousands. My question would be, why should there be a charity to begin with? You know, if anything, our organization would like to work ourselves out of business. We'd like to imagine a world in which veterans are considered a test case of how to run things right. I'm talking about everything from the VA, which does some things absolutely wonderful, and in other cases, they have actually harmed the veteran that they're working with. People need to understand that. They need to change that. And the only way that things change in the powers that be is that if enough citizens get, shall we say, annoyed, is that strong enough for you?
I think actually annoyed and engaged.
And exactly right, exactly. And do something about it. At the simplest end of it, make a donation. We'll put it to good use. The second way is to become what we call a plank owner. Are you familiar with that term, Egberto?
No, I'm not.
In naval lore, that meant any enlisted person or officer who came on board a ship while it was being commissioned would be called plank owners.
Ah,
It was an honorarium. To become a plank owner with us, $500. But think of the fact what that $500 will do, multiplied by, well,
several thousand.
every nickel is $1. So
Right,
imagine
right.
$1 worth. So if you will do that, that will be great. And of course, we're looking for people who want to work with us in Operation Debt Day, so that someday we'll have an Operation Undebt Day.
That we can all live toward that operation on that day. Well, my dear friend Jerry, tell me something that I should have asked you that I didn't.
I think you've done a great job. I guess I would like to bring up the fact that money is not the root of all evil. Debt is the root of all evil. And when we allow people to slip into debt and then not give them a helping hand, have you ever heard of the term social determinants?
Oh, yeah. Yes.
A social determinant is anything upstream from an incident or an accident that contributed to that incident or that
Right.
accident. For example, if you're living in a food desert, or if you're living in a transportation desert, that will affect your health. It'll affect your ability to get to a job. Are you aware of the fact that debt itself is a social determinant of suicide?
Yes. Yes.
We want to get rid of two things: their debt, and eliminate and reduce the amount of suicide.
If you get rid of the thing that determines further action, then you solve the problem of further whatever would have come from that said bad action. Excellent. Well, look, Jerry, it's always been a pleasure speaking to you. I have a whole lot of respect for the work that you do. Thank you for the work that you do, and please keep doing the work that you do. It is invaluable, and I'm sure just like you got a whole lot of folks out of debt with the RIP medical debt, you will also with End Veteran Debt. Thank you so kindly for having been on Politics Done Right.
Thank you, and thank your listeners for learning more about this wrong that needs to be righted.
Today, I'm honored to have a special person, the unconventional journalist, Sam Oser. As you guys know, I am very, very specific about having independent journalism taking over the sphere in this country. As we know, corporate journalism simply doesn't cover the things that need to be covered. Why? Because it's not in their interest. But anyway, with us again, Sam Oser, welcome to Politics Done Right. How are you doing today?
I'm doing really well. Thank you, Egberto.
Well, look, let me tell you, when I heard from you and heard that you were embarking on a new project with regards to empowering the community or letting the community know that they are empowered to do what I kind of refer to as citizens journalism. Why don't you tell me a little bit about some of the plans that you, along with other organizations, are talking about?
Right, for sure. Thanks again for having me on. So I've been doing journalism now as my activism for about 6-7 years. And it's getting to the point where I've realized like it's time to teach people how to report in their own communities. And the reason being is because, the news is not reflecting what community wants or needs to see. And people in their own community, they know when their streets flood. They know when they're working or trying to deal with Houston City Council to bring attention to the flooding. They know what's going on. So this effort, it's a workshop, and I'll be doing it with the Climate Justice Museum at the Post. And this workshop is just to help people tell their own stories. Like, we have everything we need to tell our own stories. We have so many free tools. Like you and I, we engage in a lot of digital things online, and it's accessible to everybody. So people in their own community should really start stepping up and reporting on what's happening in their communities, I think.
Now, Sam, one of the reasons you sent me a narrative here, some points that I'd like you to articulate on. Why is it that individual citizens now have to do this? There are reasons. What are the reasons?
Yeah, so reason number one is news deserts and news layoffs. So in January 2024 alone, there were over 500 layoffs in the journalism industry. There are currently, what did I say? It was like 65,000 journalists in the nation. And that sounds like a lot, but that's one journalist for every 5,000 people. And so that's, one person for a city, basically. And the news deserts are becoming more and more of a thing as news layoffs happen. I encourage anybody listening, please Google news deserts, and you will see that a lot of the South, the southern part of the US, Alabama, Louisiana, Florida, parts of Texas, Mississippi, it's a news desert. There's a news desert an hour away from Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. is the capital of our country. And about an hour or so away from the capital, there's a county that does not have adequate access to news. So these are some of the disparities that we're seeing. And people who are journalists, they're going to go where there are jobs. They're going to go to where there is money, right? So a person went to school, they studied journalism, they need to put a roof over their head, they need to put food on their plate. If they want to be in the journalism, where are they going to go? They're going to go to states that have news publications that can pay their mortgage, their rent, pay for food. They're not going to go to the South where there aren't a lot of news opportunities. So that's one reason.
You know what is interesting before you finish there, Sam?
Yeah.
Because as you know, I put everything through a politics frame or prism, if you will. And when you said that, all I could think about, you just named Mississippi, Alabama, parts of Texas, right an hour outside of Washington, D.C. And all I could think of is that those are the people nobody listens to or anybody knows about. And
Exactly.
henceforth, it creates a vacuum where political interests can go into and mislead these people into doing things that vote against their own interests. So as you were telling me about this, uh, these news deserts, I just pulled up the map from your link tree, and folks, everybody should visit linktree.ee/unconventional journalist. That is Sam's link tree. Linktr.ee at, all right, let's back up. It's linktr.ee/unconventional journalist. And put that into your thing if you get a chance. She does a whole lot of good work. And I ran across this article at her link tree, which comes from the Hussman School of Journalism and Media from the University of North Carolina, that shows these news deserts. And when you said that, Sam, a bell just went off. Oh my God, that is why so much of our population is actually so ill-informed.
Right.
Because again, who fills that vacuum? And you are telling people, or I think what you're saying, and tell me if I'm correct, your workshop will actually help citizens fill that gap that otherwise would go filled with who knows what.
Exactly. No, that's exactly it. And what's really interesting about the news desert map, so in the workshop too, I have a news desert map with a food desert
Mhm.
map and also a gerrymandering map. So the states and the counties and the people that are experiencing lack of food access and active gerrymandering are the same people who don't have quality access to news. Isn't
Wow.
that crazy?
It's what a correlation, right?
Yeah, if you overlay these maps on top of each other, you see that like they are actively experiencing the brunt of systemic oppression, and there's nobody there to report on it.
There you go. And that's why so many can be fooled into believe some of these oppressions aren't in fact systemic.
Exactly.
So tell me a little bit more about what you intend to do. First of all, tell us how people can find out about going to this workshop to make themselves good citizen journalists.
For sure. So I haven't posted on my social media yet, but if you follow me at Sam the Mullet, I will post the little graphic. It'll be at the Post in July. I have 2 workshops coming up for sure. My goal is to make it monthly to try to make it as accessible as possible. But for now, it's July 14th from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. at the Post in downtown Houston. And then the second one is August 11th, also from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. So that's July 14th and August 11th.
And you'll have all of that on your Twitter at Sam the Mullet, right?
Yes, at Sam the Mullet. Yes.
Yeah, because I think let me tell you, hearing about this excites me because I constantly talk about us having to take care of ourselves. We're the ones who are going to have to save ourselves. We can't expect these corporations who own these entities to come out there and fill the void. And what you're doing, I think, is invaluable to ensure that people know that they, first of all, they have agency in this and that they can make a difference. So why don't you talk to them, let them know
Yeah.
what needs to be
Well,
done.
and like the thing is too, is, we live in Houston, Harris County. I'm not sure where your audience is, but I'm sure it's around here. And I'm sure some of y'all may be thinking like, well, we have the Houston Chronicle, we have Houston Public Media, we just now got Houston Landing. We have Community Impact, we have all these various sources. But when you look at the news that's given to you, does it truly reflect what you're experiencing? First of all, I want you to ask yourself that. And then secondly, a lot of these news entities, KPRC, KHOU as well, they are driven by profit, not driven by community or community representation. Even though the Houston Landing is technically a nonprofit, they still have a board of very, very rich people. And they have to answer to how much money is coming in. And so this continuous putting profit over people, and we see this many times in our prison systems, in our healthcare, in our education, HISD state takeover, but we see it in our media as well. And so that's part of why it's important to report about what's happening in your community. And it can be real simple. I've been talking to some people about this because it's been I'm on 2 years of like, okay, I'm going to do this workshop, finally launching it. I've been thinking and talking about it for 2 years and getting feedback from people. And one of the main things that kind of puts people at a pause is they're like, I'm not articulate, I'm not educated, I'm not a journalist. And the thing I have to say to that, and this is part of the workshop that I give, is that Western media as we know it was created by a bunch of white guys in the 1920s. I'm serious. There's this book called The Untold Story of Objectivity. It's by Lewis Raven Wallace. Lewis Raven Wallace was a corporate journalist and he quit. And he's now part of Press On, which is a Southern journalism movement, journalism in service of liberation. He's now part of that group and he does journalism in service of liberation now. No, it's called Undoing the Myth of Objectivity. And in his book, he researches, where did objectivity even come from? And prior to the 1900s, news was given out by different political parties. So you had socialists, they had their newspaper, the capitalists had their newspaper, the communists had their newspaper. All these different political groups had their newspaper. When we get into the 1920s and 30s, what happens? The Great Depression. People are trying to get money. So news went away from all these partisan news outlets to something being more centralized and in favor of advertising. That's when advertising models were introduced into the news media, because they were like, well, it's the Great Depression. I need to make money. So how can I make money based off the news? And they started putting ads more heavily in their papers than they did in the past. And neutrality came about because they were trying to be neutral as to not piss off their advertisers. And the thing is too, like, these white guys who created this form of journalism in the 1920s and 30s, we have to keep in mind that they were probably racist, probably transphobic, homophobic. If they were stewards of newspapers in the South, they were probably in the Klan, to be honest. And so this is what kind of seeded our current form of Western media. And again, Lewis Raven Wallace, Undoing the Myth of Objectivity, he did a bunch of research and he writes it all down about the history and where we are now. And so if you feel like you're not articulate, you feel like you don't have the journalism chops, whatever, please just be reminded that Western media as we know it was created like 100 or so years ago, and it does not accommodate the current needs of our communities because it was never made for us.
I think that is so essential what you just said with respect to, and even the title of the book is insightful, objectivity. What is in fact objectivity? Because when you talk about certain neighborhoods and whatever rags we have in Houston or elsewhere, how much of the community do they really cover? How often do they go to the civic clubs, or how often are they on the streets of these communities, or simply dependent on what their view is of community instead of what community view is of that community? So who's better to tell that story than those who partake of it? And if you have a workshop that is able to tell folks how to bring their reality, I think that's why social media has taken off so well, because
Yeah.
it gives us the ability to see how just about everybody who has the chops to just go out there and say, I'm willing to put my life out there. I'm willing to put our activity out there, an activity that wouldn't have gotten covered before. I tell you, Sam, I get so many stories off of TikTok or
Yeah.
Instagram, and I put it out there. I've contacted so many lawyers and some rappers, different folks. I've just going through my TikTok and I said, oh, wow, I didn't know that. Let me contact this person and learn more about it and put that on, write an article about it. Sometimes put it on the radio, sometimes put it on video. I mean, it's just, I think this is needed. And I think giving folks that structure, giving folks that ability to learn some of your journalistic skills and how to apply that to their yeoman's, whatever it is that they're doing, I think that is where we need to go, because we can see right now that corporate journalism just ain't going to cut it.
Yeah, and the thing is too, is like journalists, they're going to go where their job is. They're going to go where their money is. So if you have a journalist coming into Houston and they're from up north because they couldn't find a job up there in journalism and they found a job at the Houston Chronicle, where are they going to live? Most of the journalists I know that have moved from out of state live in the most gentrified areas of Houston.
Exactly. Yes.
They're not in touch with the day-to-day of the community because they're truly not part of it. And it's not their fault, right? Like, a lot of people come in with good intentions and they're trying, but sometimes if you're moving too fast, how can you be boots on the ground in a community you're not even part of?
Exactly.
So like there's that layer of it, and oh, there was another part. But that was like the main thing I wanted to say because
Right.
like you're in your community, you know what's there. And we
Right.
have all these different tools. And oh yes, I wanted to say like also my workshop, like it does cover some basic elements of journalism, right? You can report on your community, but you can't say things that are false.
Right.
Right. Make sure you fact check yourself. It's like when you're arguing with your spouse or arguing with whoever, you want to make sure your facts are straight. And that goes for journalism in general, whether or not it's citizen journalism or whatever. So even though Western journalism as we know it was created in the 1900s out of the Great Depression, fact checking is still valid.
Right.
So I'm not saying like throw everything out the door, just throw your insecurities about not measuring up out the door.
Right. Well, look, let me tell you, Sam, give me a closer. Give our audience, first of all, tell us a little bit more about your workshop. How can they get in touch with you? And give me a good closer.
Alrighty, so the workshop I've been doing on and off for about a year or so. And I finally have come to a head with it. And the Climate Justice Museum has agreed to let me do this workshop in their space. They currently have their space at the Post in downtown Houston. The Post is the new fancy post office with all the restaurants. And so, in tandem with the Climate Justice Museum, I'm going to be putting on this workshop in this space. Right now, it's all physical. I'm not having any online ones because I'm really just trying to tap into who's here, who's around me. But if it is something of interest for it to be online, if you message me at Sam the Mullet, whenever you follow me, if I gauge that there's enough interest for online workshops, we can definitely go that route. But for now, the 2 workshops I have planned is July 14th from 2 to 4 p.m. at the Post and August from 2 to 4 p.m. also at the Post in the Climate Justice Museum space. And we're going to be covering a couple of things. We're going to be covering what is community journalism, why is it important, the basics of journalism, and then at the end, we're going to brainstorm story ideas so that way you can leave with ideas on what to write on going forward.
You have been listening to the unconventional journalist, Sam Oser. Sam, thank you so kindly for having been on Politics Done Right. This is definitely something that we need.
The question is, how long is America, those who support Donald Trump, going to allow not only Donald Trump to fool them, but for the folks who know who Donald Trump is to also fool them just for the sake of implicit power, a power they're not yet sure that they have, but a power that they want to be there in case it is realized. Senator J.D. Vance, Republican of Ohio, Governor Doug Burgum, Republican of North Dakota, Marco Rubio, Republican of Florida. These are guys that purportedly, as of today, are in strong contention to be Donald Trump's VP candidate. The problem is that these guys had or wanted nothing to do with Donald Trump, because in the case of Rubio, he always knew Donald Trump was a con man, not to speak about what he said about many, many times, little Marco, etc. Then there is Doug Burgum. Doug is a businessman, and he likes to have a phrase where he says things like, you lie with dogs, you rise with fleas. He didn't quite say it that way. You'll hear what he had to say. And then, of course, there's J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance said it in no uncertain terms. So look, folks, listen to this. I want you to hear just a snippet of what these 3 candidates or these 3 politicians thought about Donald Trump. Then we'll take it on the other side.
I'm a never Trump guy. I never liked him.
Would you ever do business with Donald Trump?
I don't think so.
Why?
I
I just think that it's important that you're judged by the company you keep.
There is no way we are going to allow a con artist to take over the conservative movement, and Donald Trump is a con artist.
So now, folks, these guys in the days when honesty meant something to them, they were bona fide, honest conservatives. And what they did is they said exactly what they felt about Donald Trump, what Donald Trump would do to the party, and how dangerous Donald Trump is. But for their own personal benefit, they decided to forget about country, forget about what is right, and to support Donald Trump. How can you even then vote these guys into the offices they currently have? Or for that matter, the vice presidency. Folks, let's use our heads. Let's stop being played, because that's all this is all about. That Donald Trump, along with all of his political sycophants, they just want to get into power, and you will pay the price. Support for this show, Politics Done Right, comes from politicsdoneright.com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It, As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto Willis.
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willis. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willis. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.